All right, welcome back to another episode of Paladin Financial Talk. I'm your host, Nikki Foley, and I'm here today with Tony Shore. Oh,
Thanks, Nikki. Thanks for having me on the show. You know I appreciate it.
well, I'm looking forward to this as we're kicking off a new series. And so during our summer months, we focus on the lifestyle side of things. And so this is a continuation of the lifestyle series, but we're focused this month on here's the drum roll. I don't think you have a drum roll over there. I wish you
I
did,
don't
Tony.
think I do. I
That's
have
okay.
I have applause.
There we go. There we go. So, a complete guide to health and wellness. And so, our purpose with this is actually came up. I was doing some of my continuing education for the insurance side of our business. And one of the webinars that I was watching talked about turning 65. So, right now we're in that boomer generation. So, many are turning 65. And the part that was so interesting to me is the planning that goes along with not that they're turning 65. I mean, yes, they're moving into retirement. There's a lot of big decisions that take place at this age, but what's going to happen in 20 years? So they called it T85, turning 85. And it's a whole nother set of things to be considering, specifically from a financial perspective and how to start preparing for that now.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, with that in mind, it really has got me started to think about, and these conversations are coming up fairly naturally as we talk more about the health side of things, as
Yeah.
we've added Medicare to our suite and offering of services, that so many more people, as they're making decisions related to Medicare and their healthcare cost, things like long-term care planning are starting to come up. And so it's becoming more and more part of our conversations that we're having from a financial perspective
Right.
as we talk about the health side of things. So we're going to this is going to be lighter. This is going to be not so financially focused over the next 4 weeks, but I think it should be really good because so many of these things really tie together. And we'll talk a little bit about that today.
Yeah, they do. And I know you love this topic, don't
Do.
you, Nikki?
Yes.
I mean, talking about health and wellness, we've had shows before in the past on working out, fitness regimens, how it helps your finances to stay healthier. So I like this.
So let's talk and dig a little bit into how some of these all play together, because
Sure.
I do think when you're thinking I'm showing up for a financial show, why are we talking about the health and wellness side of things? And
Right.
again, a little bit lighter here on the lifestyle things, but your health as you age largely depends on what you do. And so your mobility, your immune system, your mental, like how sharp you are, your wellness, all of those play into things, and what can you control and what you might already know from a hereditary perspective. How is that going to impact you? And then starting to plan for some of the key areas. The
Right.
other piece that I think is important as part of this is we are talking about you and your life, or our client's life, but we're also talking about what people are going through right now, and that is aging parents and aging aunts and the
Yeah.
caregiving that goes with things. And there might be some mental things that have to start playing into what can you do for them and how do you prepare from that perspective. So this really all kind of interweaves together when we were talking about these things, and that's where I think it does fit into things here. So
Yeah. Well, and it really does fit into the financial aspect. And I'm caring for my parents, and you really see it.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So let's talk about the financial aspect and some of the things of how this does play back to the financial perspective. So think about this. So just planning for healthcare cost as a whole. So whether it is an illness or longevity of your life, those things can add up for retirees, and we want to make sure that as we're talking about your financial plan, that we're giving a real estimate and knowing what that might look like and how it can impact that overall number that we keep planning for. Well, it could get derailed pretty quickly if we don't
Yeah.
have some conversations around it.
Right.
As I talked about earlier, Medicare really opens the door to some of these additional conversation. Oftentimes, and I know I've shared this on the show before, people are very caught off guard by what their expenses are going to be related to Medicare. People have the misconception that I have paid into this or my employer has paid into this all these years. I didn't expect that I'm gonna have so much out of pocket. In fact, for some people, it's more out of pocket as they as they move into Medicare than it was when they were working in part of a group plan. And so
Right.
trying to get ahead of that and making sure people are prepared and not caught off guard and helping them through their choices. And then one that we've also brought up along the way, but I think it's important to really spend a little more time on it, is your health savings accounts. And sometimes people don't even know what that is, and they certainly don't know how to take advantage of it. So, bringing some light to that from a financial perspective of how you access that, and then how do you fully utilize that from a tax advantage perspective.
Yeah, and that's something that you can help your clients with and do help your clients with understanding HSAs, understanding the actual costs of Medicare, things like that.
You got it. Yeah. And one of the other financial perspectives that we're going to spend a whole episode on the topics that I'm going through now, but just that long term care planning side of things.
Yes.
That doesn't mean long term care insurance, it means planning for your care over the long term. And then there's a concept of aging in place and just kind of weighing what do those expenses look like and what do I want, and putting those pieces together. And that really helps launch the conversation and then discuss the funding decisions that go along with those. And so that's kind of a financial perspective when you're talking about health and wellness, but really there's so much more to go into. And so one of the things I'm excited about, Tony, is every or twice a year we do a live client education event. And so our next one is coming on September 9th, and we have an outside speaker that's really going to focus on this topic and bring some more light to the focusing on the challenges of aging, but specifically the risk and the strategies to optimize your success as it relates to the financial side of things. So exciting that we're going to have an outside speaker at that one, and that's coming up very soon here.
Very cool. I like that.
So as we talk about that, and some of the things that we've talked about with the speaker is there's some cognitive issues that go into things, and then also the physical side of things. And I know
Yes.
that you are dealing with that, Tony. So when
Yep.
I say that, your eyes kind of light up because you're like, that's exactly what I'm going
That
through.
is exactly. And when you say cognitive, you mean things like Alzheimer's and dementia. Those are cognitive issues,
Yeah.
which both my parents have, especially my dad has that right now. And then physical, falling,
Yeah.
strokes, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And again, we talked about this a moment ago, but I want to say it again is so often people, when you're in a financial conversation and we have this little bubble and we say we're going to help in this area, and they kind of want to gloss over it. But the reality is people are just looking to get to retirement. Then they're excited about being in retirement, and then they have to make some Medicare decisions and Social Security decisions. But once you start getting past that, the attention really does need to turn to how can I be as efficient as possible from a tax perspective? And then that plays into what does the long term medical side of things look like? And so these cognitive and physical issues can be as expensive. And so looking 20 years ahead is what we're talking about
Yeah.
with these.
Yep. I think that's important. And a lot of people are going through it with their parents, like I am. And
Yeah.
yeah.
We have, just to kind of set the stage of how important this is to us right now, we've actually are introducing a new seminar that we are going to be doing in the community, and that's our way to make sure we're educating. And any of our listeners or clients, if they want to hear more about what we're talking about, that might be a great way to have a highlights from us. Is attend one of our upcoming workshops around the community. I know we have several of those coming up, but the way that we're looking at this is there's really 4 key segments that you want to be making decisions in as it relates to retirement. One is the financial aspect,
Hmm.
and there's a lot that falls under that. 2 is that estate planning and legal perspective and some of the things that you may be faced with. 3 is the tax perspective and the planning aspect, not just preparation, but actual planning that goes along with that. And then, like I said before, our 4th one is this health planning and the costs that go along with that. So we really are focused on bringing all 4 of these together because they really interweave with each other, and there's significant crossover on them.
Sure. Sure. And obviously, the time to plan for these things is now. It's like a tree. When's the best time to
Yeah.
plant a tree? 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And the second best time is today.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
what else are you going to cover in the coming month as part of this series?
Let me bring just a little bit of highlight on why we think these are so important. Let's take the cognitive side of things because I know that
Sure.
that's something your parents are going through and you're going through with them. So you have a decline in health in this area, which means memory loss, right? Language potentially could be problem solving. You can't pay your bills. It all gets messy from that perspective.
Yes, it does.
But what happens is you start to cross over into other realms. So that is, the health side of things. then somebody has to enter and they have to be able to potentially support you from a financial perspective and make decisions for you, right? And
Right.
so that then leads into the legal side of this is what does that look like and how does that actually work? And are you set up in the
Right.
event that that starts happening? And then there's this gray area that sits right in the middle when you haven't completely lost all of those skills. And so getting you set up before that starts happening and the stress of when that is starting to happen, that's how they all intersect. And so that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And why is this so important? We've said it, but I just saw a statistic on this. So by 2020, by 2050, so
Yeah.
approximately 25 years from now, when
Sure.
a lot of our clients are in this phase that we're talking about, the number of Americans age 65 and older with Alzheimer's is projected to double. So we're
Wow.
somewhere like around 6.5 million or 6.2 million, something like that, that have Alzheimer's. It's over 12 million, and that's 25 years from now. And
That's
so
huge.
the need, whether it has registered with our listeners and those that are around us, or it just seems something that's out there in the future, we are really starting to draw attention to this now so that we can tackle the numbers are there, and now it's turning our focus to it.
Sure.
So, other things that we're going to cover this month, because I think it's important to talk about these, is things like chronic diseases and conditions. And so, one of the things that a lot of where we draw our topics from are things that our clients are going through. And I'll tell you a situation recently. We had a client that was in the grocery store having a conversation with a fellow shopper, and she had a stroke right in the middle of that conversation.
Oh,
And it's to be able to identify what those symptoms are. She couldn't continue her speech. Finally, she was able to get out that she was having a stroke and they called 911, and then they were able to get the ambulance there and so forth. But this is going to be more of the reality that we're in. And so things like being able to identify stroke symptoms and being able to support things like diabetes. I have a situation right now where a gentleman was going through the Medicare process. He says, "You know what? I have an appointment in 2 weeks or 3 weeks here. I think that I'm going to have to go on some I don't have diabetes, but they think that I do." And all of a sudden he calls me back 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later after this appointment and he says, "I have it and this is the medication I'm going on." It changed his Medicare options over this 2-week period. And so
yeah.
things like these are happening and we want to know what else it's going to impact. So something happens, point A, well, it impacts these 2 or 3 other things. So diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, arthritis, cancer, all of those things are chronic disease and conditions. And so let's look at those. And then our hope is that we have a guest with us when we're talking about these and giving us some real tangible research type information for our listeners. And another episode, we're going to talk a little bit about activities of daily living, medication management, and the role of Medicare and how all of that plays together.
Yep.
There's a lot of changes going on right now with prescription drugs as it relates to the Medicare side of things.
Yeah.
And so we're in a crucial point in the next 6 weeks. There's a ton of information that's being released. While I may not have everything, there's going to be things that I think that we can talk about at a high level of what is changing with prescription drugs and how important that is for this year during this upcoming annual enrollment season to really be looking at prescription drugs and what impact that's going to have on your financial side of things.
Yeah, especially considering how expensive many of them are,
Yeah.
and whether they're covered or fully covered or partially covered,
Yeah.
because that can be a huge expense.
There has been legislation that has been rolling out over the last 2 years, and we're moving into the third year of it. And that is what is driving a lot of this. And so it is some fairly sweeping changes that people will want to be paying attention to. So we'll do an episode related to that. And then one of the others that we hope to talk about is mental health.
Yeah.
And one thing that doesn't seem to get talked about is anxiety and depression that happens as you continue to age. And so this is another area that I'm hoping to have a guest on with us that we can talk about some of the mental issues that go along with aging. So that should be a good one.
Yeah, I've heard the majority of American adults are on some type of anxiety
Isn't that
medication,
incredible?
and from teenage years on,
Yeah.
are on anxiety medication.
And I would say people don't like to necessarily talk about it. Well,
Right.
let's bring some attention and some education to it.
Yeah.
And so, again, back to our lifestyle series, breaking away a little bit from the financial side of things, but certainly things that people are facing. And then, Tony, you probably will have no opinion about this, or maybe you might have a big opinion. I don't know. Perimenopause is a topic that is out there and it is everywhere. And I think there's some conversation to be had around
I'm
that.
going to be
Ready to
busy
wrap up?
that day during that episode. I might just let you and Allie handle it.
There you go. So we may have no listeners that day, or our numbers might spike on that one, but it is everywhere, and there is a
Well,
lot
sure.
of information
Yeah.
out there, and honestly, it can be crippling for those individuals that are going through it because
Yes.
they know that they need to take action for a variety of reasons, but they are afraid to take action, either A, because it's uncomfortable, or B, it's overload on information and they're afraid to make a move. And so,
Yeah.
again, I have a guest.
It's a good topic to talk about, though.
It is.
It
And I have
needs to
been
be
waiting.
addressed.
I've been waiting to do this one, but I had to figure out where it fit in. And
Mhm.
so I have a guest.
I
for
assume
that one.
Jeff will be hosting that show.
Hosting it and leading the conversation. Absolutely. All right, Tony. So that gives a preview of where we're going over the next 4 or 5 weeks here. Again, I'm really excited about it. And again, I know that you're like, I'm on a financial show. What are we doing talking about all of this? But I hopefully have illustrated why it's important that it goes into the long-term picture of your financial plan.
Yeah, these are hot topics with people out there and in the media. So I think it's great you're covering those. Great show today, letting people know what they have to look forward to this month. The next 4 episodes are going to be fantastic.
Yep, they should be packed with information. We'll have several guests with us. And so, Tony, thank you for letting me be here today.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me preview of what's to come. And then if people are interested, like I said earlier or throughout the show, we have several things that are coming up that are educational in nature. So we kick off a number of seminars that'll be hosted in our community. So check our website for that, and that is paladinfinancial.com. Check out the seminars page there. We also have our upcoming client education event, which is on Monday, September 9th, 6 p.m. So look for invitations. And if you're interested, to anybody that's listening, we'd love to have you join us for that one. And plenty of education coming out of the Paladin Suite. We also have a webinar coming up here in August. So nothing short of information.
You guys are so busy.
Yeah, well, thank you again, Tony. For our listeners today, certainly visit our website at paladinfinancial.com. You can also reach us at 651-842-8406.
All right, and that does it for today's episode of Paladin Financial Talk with our host today, Nikki Foley.
Thanks so much, Tony.